On Thursday, August 11, the Elections Amendment Act 2011 received its second reading, during which time Acting Attorney General Baba Aziz went through several of the changes that the new act will bring to the Elections Act of 1994, which has seen several amendments since its inception. Speaking on Thursday about the new bill, the Attorney General explained the Elections Amendment Act 2011 will improve the 1994 Act in order to enhance the conduct of elections.
The Elections Act 1994 has seen several amendments, the last of which was in February 2007. That is on a date prior to the coming into force of the Virgin Island Constitution Order 2007. Mr. Speaker, the object of this bill is to improve the Elections Act 1994, number 16 of 1994, herein after referred to as the Principal Act, in order to enhance the conduct of elections.
Some of the areas that the new Elections Act would amend include several sections throughout the Principal Act to bring the Act in line with the Virgin Islands Constitution Order 2007, ensuring that the applicant provides documentation confirming residence within the electoral district, and notification is given to the applicant in a timely manner. A new subsection which would create an obligation for the Registrar General to provide particulars in relation to the deaths of each person aged 18 years or older to the Supervisor of Elections, electronic voting, as well as database. Certain qualifications be satisfied before a person could be appointed by the Governor as the Supervisor of Elections, and the Deputy Supervisor of Elections would have the same or comparable qualifications. These requirements include that persons seeking to fill the position of Supervisor of Elections should have practiced in the Virgin Islands as a barrister, must have at least 1 year administrative or supervisory experience with respect to elections, and must be a Virgin Islander. During Thursday's evening's debate on the Elections Act, several legislators supported the bill, including Territorial at Large Representative Irene Penn O'Neill, who said that the amendments will greatly improve the elections process.
I support this bill because it seeks to modernize the Act, the Principal Act of 1994. The bill seeks to take into account the many report and recommendations that came out of the Supervisor of Election reports. And Mr. Speaker, the bill will also seek to improve the way that the counting of votes are being carried out and to get results in a more timely manner. Mr. Speaker, as a territorial representative, I can see the amendment helping us from going from days to know our fate to hours.
The debate on the Elections Amendment 2011 Act did not go without questions, as Leader of the Opposition Dr. Orlando Smith spoke about the new requirements for the Supervisor of Elections, which he said would limit the number of persons applying for the post, as not many persons he knows have such requirements.
Mr. Speaker, this does two things. First of all, it would prevent persons who are capable and qualified to contest an election and even be Premier of this country. It would prevent such persons from being able, have an ability to be either the Supervisor or the Deputy Supervisor of Elections. And that doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me, Mr. Speaker. People, remember, Mr. Speaker, there are grandfather clauses that include people who were qualified under the last, the previous constitution. And there's no such provision in this new, in the changes to the electoral bill. So, Mr. Speaker, I think we'll be doing ourselves a bit of a disservice if we don't look at that carefully. And the other thing, Mr. Speaker, that I find a bit concerned about, as far as that is concerned, is that by doing this, by having these qualifications, it limits severely the number of people who can be available for the positions of either supervisor or deputy supervisor.
But 5th District Representative Honorable Elvis Harrigan did not share the opposition leader's concern and said that he is certain there are persons home and abroad who would qualify for the position or are in the process of qualifying presently.
The supervisor of election is an important person in this territory because that person is responsible for the smooth conduct of all the elections, of which, Mr. Speaker, you are electing a government to conduct the affairs of this country and making such government responsible for a lot of lives in this territory. And Mr. Speaker, that is why it is important that the supervisor of election has some sort of qualifications to understand, Mr. Speaker, whatever challenges that may be thrown his or her way, the supervisor of election. And Mr. Speaker, we have a number of persons that are studying law. We have a lot of young people here, Mr. Speaker, that are throughout this territory in areas that can take on this task.
Another change mentioned by Dr. Smith is a shorter period of time that the elections could now be held.
One of the important aspects of the changes in the bill is really to take into account the changes in the new constitution. And one of the important changes in the new constitution was that the election could now be, in the new constitution, could be held between 3 weeks and 2 months. And so, for that reason, it is important, in fact necessary, to compress the times for all the things that have activities that must take place during the election, preparing for and during the electoral process, in order to be able to meet this deadline of 3 weeks, between 3 weeks and 2 months.
Legislators debated the Elections Act until 9:30 p.m. on Thursday. The House then went into recess and into committee session to discuss the Elections Amendment Act 2011 clause by clause. Members returned to the House of Assembly on Friday, August 12th to continue discussion in committee session. As of news time on Friday afternoon, the bill was yet to be read a third time and passed.